Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Your trade deadline go-to information advantage source? I guess.
That's it. That's the slogan.
I get that, we have to talk about this, but it really is just I want to sit down and have a fireside chat about just getting rid of trade deadlines. That's all I want this to turn into. But
maybe later on. We can definitely spout out that debate from you for sure.
Yeah. But it's trade deadline time, well, it's SFB playoff time, which is fun, but there's no trading, but it's just fun to talk about. But it's Safe League's deadline time. It's getting close to first week of playoffs, which means if there are deadlines, there has to be one. That's when it should be. But so we're here to try and give you some ideas on maybe who to go for, who to sell away. Now, I'm not pulling any rabbits out of hats. Chances are you've thought about some of these people, but it's just, trying to help you with some ideas about how to go about things. But let's first talk about a player to buy. And I believe I put him on my list, and that's Brandon Aiyuk. It's been a weird ride for the San Francisco wide receivers since Debo came in 19, right? Aiyuk comes in the next year, and then they never really tried to do anything else since then, but they've both had up years, both had down years. Kittle's just always awesome. But I mean, especially once Purdy started, Aiyuk has really been the guy. And it's been mostly dependable. There was a couple of weeks in the beginning, mid part of the season where it was a little unfortunate, but Aiyuk has been the guy there. Purdy's the guy there, so Aiyuk is going to continue to be the guy there, and their playoff schedule is pretty strong. I think they have one or two tough matchups, but I'm just not worried about the Niners at all.
No.
So I think Aiyuk is a great piece to go after, and there's some interesting trades in here that Addison was able to pull. Both 12-team Superflex, but the first trade is Brandon Aiyuk and Jerry Jeudy for Michael Pittman and Chris Godwin. Now, if you are like me, you hate having depth on your rosters because you hate having to make lineup decisions. Aiyuk 455, Jerry Jeudy 160, no 170. I can round for a total of 625. Michael Pittman 322, Chris Godwin 249, total of 571. So this is coming out to the Aiyuk side. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is not someone. It hurts, but he's not someone you want to put in your lineups. So in which case, this is a roster spot fill, a complete and utter desperation if you need it. But to send Pittman and Godwin to go get Aiyuk, you set your calendar back a little bit with having to worry about 8 players aging out. And I think Aiyuk has a higher ceiling than both of these players do. And I do want to put the caveat in here that I love Pittman and Godwin. So usually my personal bias plays so strong into which side I pick. But the point of this one, which made me like it even more, is my personal bias should heavily pull me towards Pittman and Godwin. But it's going to be Aiyuk in this one. And I honestly like it for both sides because if you need depth, this is fine. It's good. I don't feel great about breaking down Aiyuk really, but it's okay. But if you're telling me I can send these two guys and get a guy who I think has the higher ceiling, I do that pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement here too. And I mean, many people might say if you look at fantasy points right now, Michael Pittman and Brandon Aiyuk are the wide receiver 14 and 15 in fantasy scoring in total points. Now, Pittman has beaten out Brandon Aiyuk by 1.5 points in total points on one more game. So translation, Aiyuk is averaging 1.5 points more than Michael Pittman in points per game when you account for the one game difference. So Aiyuk is 100% scoring more than all 4 of these guys, or the leading scorer of these 4 guys. Pittman's not that far behind. Godwin has been fine. It's been weird, but he's been okay. And then Jeudy just sucks and really just breaks our heart. But
yeah, real bad.
So I'm not even really considering him all that much in this deal. It's mainly just to be able to condense your wide receivers to go get Brandon Aiyuk, who has the upside to be, a borderline wide receiver 1, and on any given week could just literally just score like 25 fantasy points. Like that's just, what he can do. And then you have the upside. The Niners picked up his 5th-year option for next year. But if he were to go somewhere else, this is like the T. Higgins thing where he can like kind of get out of San Francisco. Not saying that San Francisco is bad for him, but he's only getting like 7 to 8 targets right now. Imagine if he was getting 9 or 10 targets a game, right? Like that would boost his floor, also boost his ceiling. It's, I've said it multiple times on this channel. I think it's like, imagine you bought Stephon Diggs in Minnesota right before he got traded to Buffalo, having known that he would be fantastic in Buffalo. That could kind of be the same exact thing that happens here with Aiyuk, where he goes somewhere to be more of the target hog wide receiver 1 rather than just kind of like the big play wide receiver 1 that still shares targets with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. And, so yeah, I am absolutely in love with buying Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm all for condensing wide receivers and going up and getting him here.
So next we have, this is a fun one. And I'll start with the other side because it's Bijan Robinson for Devon Achane, Brandon Aiyuk, and a 26 first. Why are people I've made my indent, my footprint on this community as the trade guy. Why are you trading 26 picks already? Come on. Like that's
I'll take 26 first. I'm not against it.
Devon Achane 490. Aiyuk still 455. A 26 first is worth 160 for a total of 1105. Bijan 763. Now it's funny. Like if Bijan didn't have that good game before the bye week, like
this trade would look really bad.
Yeah.
Not really bad, but worse.
So here's my question. Let's say Bijan runs the rest of the season in that 15 to 17 points per game. Not RB1, not top 5 RB, but solid low-end RB1 numbers. Devon Achane probably puts up 16 to 19 with those maybe a spike week or two of like 2-3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Is Achane ranked above Bijan for you?
No. Because I'm still blaming it on Arthur Smith, which could be an issue in the fact that Atlanta might never move on from Arthur Smith, or at least might not move on quickly enough for us that we're actually kind of wrong in taking
finally losing
Achane. But yeah, but it still seems like they're just like, oh no, he's still winning enough games.
That being said, like to me, like you're probably talking about 2 top 3 running backs in Dynasty. If Achane finishes the season like he not started because he didn't really start the season, those, and I'm not saying 50 points per game, like just decent RB1 numbers, like they'll be ranked probably both top 3 or 4.
They'll be top 5 for sure.
Yeah. So like, I don't think the value of difference between the two of them will be that hard or far or different, or pick a word that makes more sense in there. I really just dropped the ball on that one. So in which case you're getting close to a free Aiyuk in 26 first. And the thing is, like, yeah, I'm spinning a very specific example, but is it that outlandish?
No, I don't think so.
Like, I don't think there was very few things to happen for Bijan to lose his value. Honestly, this wasn't on the list. Bijan not being used was not on the list of ways that Bijan would lose his value, but it's here and it's happening. Like, I have like 2 Bijan shares. I would do cartwheels, and I don't know how to do cartwheels, but I would do cartwheels if this came into my inbox.
Yeah, I would. This is where like Achane and Aiyuk already are like a good break up from Bijan down to just those 2.
Yeah.
But then you added on the ability that you got the 26 first, which might not mean all that much right now. It's still 3 years in the future, whatever. We have no idea where that could land. But each year that passes, that first has become more and more valuable.
You can tell me that this is guaranteed the 112 and 26, and I'm still thrilled.
It's a free 112.
Yeah, right.
That's all that it's just. I essentially view this as a free first round pick. And if you spin a narrative where if things kind of go a little bit right for Achane, or continue to go right for Achane, I guess, assuming that he comes back and ends the year healthy and 80% of what he did at the beginning, then you could spin the tail that you kind of got a free Aiyuk as well too. But it's 100% at least the free first, in my opinion.
Addison's player is DeAndre Swift. So this is your player, so why don't you do the sales pitch?
Well, I mean, he's fantastic. He's everything that we thought that he was going to be in Detroit, and honestly was to a degree for a couple of years there. It's just the injuries, and Dan Campbell hated him, and blah, 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 blah. But now he's finally doing DeAndre Swift things, what we expected him to do basically when he got drafted. And it's fantastic. He's still only 24 years old. He's in a high-powered offense. He's getting basically all the rushing work and receiving work. Like he's averaging like 18 to 20 touches per game. And he finally scored Monday night. So this might be a harder sell now because we have the fresh in our minds off the bye week. DeAndre Swift just dropped a 20-point game. But I am still like, I'm all aboard buying DeAndre Swift right now because I do think that he is one of these players that could ascend back into, I'm not going to say the top 5 where he was a couple years ago, but back firmly inside like the top 8. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him ahead of like Kenneth Walker, ahead of Achane, ahead of, I think he'll get, I mean, he's behind like Saquon Barkley right now in ADP. I think he could bump Saquon Barkley as well too. Like these are just the players that are ahead of him right now that I don't really think should be. So it's pretty easy. Argument, in my opinion.
Here's his schedule going forward: Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals. Now, MFL, it's not perfect the way they do the opposition rank. It's really just fantasy points against. So there's a lot of narrative that is built into that. But 23, 10, 6, 27, 22, 30.
Yeah, that 3-week playoff schedule, dude.
Playoffs, 27, 22, 30. That is probably the best out there.
And even like the Niners have been beat before by decent-ish running backs.
Yeah, but I'm still so mad at the NFL for letting them get Chase Young also.
You know.
Like they're just that, and then the rest of their linebackers are getting healthy, and it's just like no one's ever going to be able to move the ball on them for the rest of the season. It's just unfair. But still, that you're right. That playoff schedule is just beautiful, and you don't need me to help talk up DeAndre Swift. You don't have to convince me, I should say. I'm here for it. So the first trade we have, both again 12-team Superflex, DeAndre Swift for a late first and Rashad Bateman. Swift 305, a late first 219, Bateman 88, total of 307. So spot on. Like this was built with the analyzer almost. Bateman is almost non-factor to me, unfortunately. But I guess it's like I can't imagine you're dropping Rashad Bateman, but like it's a player replacement, I guess. So you don't have an empty roster spot, which I guess I would rather have Bateman over an empty roster spot. All of that rambling aside, I'm giving a late first for Swift. And if I am no longer competing, like if I fell out, I'll take a late first for Swift.
I think I want a little bit more than a late first for Swift because, again, this might be just me, like I was saying, that he should be valued inside the top 10, like squarely inside the top 10. So I would want a little bit more than just a late first. But then especially whenever you look at the running back class for next year, like the 24 running back class is not good. Not good. So if you're like, oh, well, I can just trade Swift for a late first and then I can just hit the reset button on a running back.
You're going to get some beautiful wide receivers.
That is the key though, too. Like the wide receivers.
If you are still like me and you just love that X body type wide receiver, like there are like 15 wide receivers that are over 6'3", 200. And I'm not exaggerating as much as it sounds like. Like there are a lot of gigantic wide receivers that are very good coming into the league this season, and I'm very excited for it.
And there's a couple more that are not that prototypical size, but they're like, their metrics are off the charts.
Yeah, but also like, so I pull up November ADP again, and I mean, are you getting all that much more than a late first for Kenneth Walker, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara?
Well, I think some of them probably shouldn't be worth the late. Kamara, I don't think should be worth the late first.
Like those are the players above.
Right.
I can't believe I just forgot DeAndre Swift's name as I was trying to talk. But those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, and then there's Achane. I skipped Achane, and then I put Kenneth Walker just because I don't really believe in the guy. But like, to me, that's why I think I take a late first for Swift, because there's enough managers out there that are just burned enough by him, and he's a 25-year-old running back. And so like it's going to be tough to get more, which is why I say I'll take it. Would I love to get more? Of course. But like if we just changed out Bateman for, I mean, clearly not, like we always used to use Jerry Jeudy and we can't do that anymore. But like someone of that value, someone of that like 150 in the analyzer value, I think, we feel so much better about, like, even if we're talking young and maybe upside, Treylon Burks, Wan'Dale Robinson, if you want to score points, no, you're getting the first. You don't want to score points. I mean, Romeo Doubs, Michael Wilson,
Jaden Reed.
Yeah, like all of these players in there. Like I think it's really just, like, it's not that far off, and it so happens that Bateman has just disappeared. And so it's that specific player that's really throwing it off for us. So the next trade we have is a big boy. Steph Diggs, DeAndre Swift, a 24 first for Tyreek Hill and Rashee Rice. Wow. Diggs in at 509, Swift at 305, a late first at 219 for a total of for a total of 1034. Tyreek Hill 616, Rashee Rice 150 for a total of 766. But this feels like a lot. And like I get that I'm not, like I know a lot of people see Rashee Rice as like the next dude in Kansas City. I'm never going to bother chasing that. Rashee Rice averaging 10 points per game and pretty much keeping it around there. Let's see, target wise, 4, 6, 5, 2, 5. Like it's not even a steady, like if it were a steady 5, 6, like of course the game where he only had 2 targets, he caught both of them and one of them was a touchdown. But still, like Rice is almost an afterthought in this for me. And Diggs, Swift, and a first to move from, well, let's just say Swift and a first to move from Diggs to Tyreek, and a bye week replacement or an injury insurance that you still don't feel great about. Like that's a lot. Like this is absolutely sour grapes on Diggs. Like that's the only thing I could think about.
Yeah. Or you really just wanted to go up and get Tyreek.
Maybe you're not starting Swift, but even still, I'd be shocked that Diggs and Swift doesn't get you Tyreek, and maybe you do think Rice is worth a late first, which I'm not on board with.
No.
Nah.
But hey, one of the ways that you can go buy DeAndre Swift. This is why I highlighted this trade, because then you could trade a big player like Tyreek Hill and get Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Swift.
All right, let's flip the script and start talking about some players that, even if you're competing or like maybe you want to get them off your roster a little bit. I brought up Courtland Sutton, which again makes me sad because I really like Courtland Sutton and he's having a really good season. So the first trade we have, again, they're both 12-team Superflex. The two we have, Gabe Davis, Courtland Sutton, and a 24 third for Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis, 96, Courtland Sutton, 88, and a third for 50 for a total of 234. Christian Kirk, 240. Yeah, I'm good with this. You are pouring things together to just try and get the better player. Now, they're scoring very similarly, Christian Kirk and Courtland Sutton, which I guess is really what you want in this, because you're replacing the points that you're scoring. It's literally 0.6 points per game different between the two of them. But you're getting someone who is a year younger on at least what hopefully is an ascending offense. They feel like showing it every few weeks, and Christian Kirk is very much a strong part of that game plan, like to the point where they came out and said we need to get Christian Kirk more involved. Then of course Calvin Ridley finally goes off for a week, which thank you, Calvin. But see, I like this play because it's 3 things where you're just like, man, I've been stuck with these things in my roster for a while. Let me get something that I feel a little better about. So I'm all about 3 for 1ing into a player I feel better about. And I do feel better about Christian Kirk long term and fine right now. Because again, Kirk's not dependent on touchdowns. Sooner or later, anytime they're near the red zone, they're just going to put 6 dudes on Sutton.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially it. Like you just said that they're scoring similarly, Sutton and Kirk, but Kirk has 5 fewer touchdowns than Courtland Sutton.
Yep.
So if you kind of put that into perspective and saying that Sutton is overproducing in that category massively, and maybe Kirk is underproducing a little bit, especially related to the volume difference in terms of targets between the two as well. The Kirk is just a much better asset dynasty wise. I think on a weekly basis, like if Sutton's not scoring, you're gonna have a bad game. Now it hasn't happened a lot. It's only happened twice this year. But if he goes on a streak here where he's not scoring, he's not gonna have a good game. Christian Kirk, when he doesn't score, you could still get 14 points out of him. At least double digits for sure. Even if he doesn't score, and if he does score, you're talking about a 20-point game. Courtland Sutton has 8 touchdowns this year. I think his highest is like 17 or 18 fantasy points. Something stupid like that.
19.
So I would pay Gabe Davis in a third to move off of Courtland Sutton to go down to an asset that's younger, better, in my opinion, and could be in for more production either at the end of the year or has a solid track of more production next year.
So speaking of younger and more production most likely next year also, a 25 first in Courtland Sutton for Tank Dell and a 24 third. Like this feels so straight up, the first for Dell, the third for Sutton. Like that just feels spot on to me. 25 first is 254. Courtland Sutton 88 for a total of 342. Tank Dell, soon to be changed 149, I'm sure, and the third at 50 for a total of 200. Tank Dell
is really good.
Really good.
It's really good.
First of all, thank you, DLF. Thank you, MFL, for catching up and getting rid of that Nathaniel stuff. He is Tank Dell. He is not Nathaniel Dell. Wide receiver 41 in November ADP. And the spread isn't that far. He was drafted as early as 75, as late as 88. Like, that's not that big of a gap. Like, that's late.
He's gonna jump up though. I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 25 in December.
He should be top 25 easily.
Yes.
Like, because let's go to 25. DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman, JSN, Drake London, Cooper Kupp. I think I put Tank over all of them right now. And that's wide receiver 17. I stopped before I hit T. Higgins just because I don't want to say things that make me sad. Like, Tank Dell, it doesn't matter who's on the field. Tank Dell is scoring points. And if they add a wide receiver, chances are that wide receiver is going to step in for Nico Collins instead of stepping in for Tank Dell, because Nico's health has been iffy and Nico's play has been iffy every once in a while. Maybe it's just because he's not fully healthy when he comes back. I don't know that well enough, but like, I am not worried the slightest about Tank Dell's future. So if I can get him for a 25 first, I do that.
Yeah, I do it pretty easily as well too. And if you got to add, I don't really consider the third all too much in here. I would add Courtland Sutton just as like the sweetener, just to be like, what?
Exactly.
Just give me Tank Dell. I'm not really worried all that much about losing Courtland Sutton, even if you are competing or not, because even if you are competing, you're getting Tank Dell.
Yep. Who is going to be vastly outscoring.
More productive this year.
16 on the season. That's 16.5. So we're talking almost a full 3 points per game over Sutton.
Yeah, dude, Tank Dell's going to be. So this feels like D-Jack back when he was like breaking out with Philly early in his career, and then just continued to do his thing. Tyler Lockett, broke out with Doug Baldwin across from him. Then they brought in DK Metcalf. Did that matter? Not one bit. I tweeted out in a response to Matt Harmon. He put out a tweet about talking about Tank Dell, and I said it feels like we're almost seeing what Will Fuller should have been like in Houston with Deshaun Watson had he had been actually healthy. You know,
remember that one year Will Fuller did great and then got busted for PEDs at the end.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Good times.
All right, but let's move on to our last sell, and that is Jordan Love. See, the wonderful thing in this situation is the difference between fantasy and reality. Wow, that's a very deep, strong statement. But I meant fantasy football and real football. Jordan Love is doing okay for fantasy football. He's not doing great in real life. So, like, my big concern is, like, maybe they don't, like, hold on, I have Tankathon pulled up. They're currently the 9th pick. That's not out of the realm of replacement.
Nope.
Not to mention, there are a lot of teams with 4 wins. So they could, in 1 week, make a jump up to 5th or 6th. You know, of course, there needs to be a perfect storm for them to make that big of a jump. But, like, to me, it's completely possible. And Jordan Love isn't that great. And so if you're in a league where one of the competing teams just lost Burrow or has been struggling or, like, was using Tyler Heineke or one of these weird things, and you have Jordan Love on your team, I know part of you is sitting there like, well, I got a 25-year-old starting quarterback.
Nah.
Yeah. So the first trade we have, again, both 12-team Superflex, Jordan Love, a late 24 first and 24 second for Tua. See, I love this because they're the same age. They came in the same year, right?
Yes, they were both 2020.
Yeah. And like a late first isn't a lot for me. And we're talking the total side of the Jordan Love is 573, Tua himself 783. Now, I think we've fallen back into the reality that Tua is not really what he was those first 3 games. Like, he's not the MVP candidate we're hoping he would keep up. But he is a solid top 10 scoring fantasy quarterback. And spending my competing first to move from Love to Tua feels like nothing.
Oh, yeah. You get so much more job security, more production.
Yep. Literally don't see a downside.
There's like the only downside would be like if that 24 first ended up being like some really great prospect, which it might be.
Yeah,
but
like ousted first round and it's the 107. Like, that sucks a little bit. But still, you have Tua on your team.
Yeah. And that first could be Quentin Johnston. And now, what?
Why?
Sorry, had to bring it up.
Why?
Tua is so much better.
Tua is so much better. Oh, man. And this one isn't all that different for me. The next one is DJ Moore and Jordan Love for Kyler Murray. DJ Moore 270, Jordan Love 255, total of 525. Kyler Murray 594 on his own. Man, Kyler Murray's coming back and he's going to keep doing Kyler Murray things. He's only 26, a year older than Jordan Love came in the year before, so I guess that tracks. He's just going to keep getting back into game shape and hopefully start throwing the ball to Hollywood Brown a little bit because, come on, man, help me out a little. And I like DJ Moore. I really do think the Bears ride with Justin Fields. I don't think they draft Caleb, but even if they do, things won't get worse for DJ Moore, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So I really like DJ Moore, but the fact that, again, you're just using Jordan Love to get to a stud of a quarterback just seems like such a nice move. And let's face it, DJ Moore isn't top 15 at his position. So It's really just a player I happen to like who does pretty well. So, like, this feels like a super easy way to, like, just go get Kyler and be happy about it.
This feels almost identical to the Tua trade. If you just replace DJ Moore with a late first and late second. Now, maybe you'd say that you would take DJ Moore over a late first and a late second. I probably would, just because there's a little bit more known with DJ Moore, but it's very fair. But I also think if you're adding a player to Jordan Love that's a little bit more than the value before that we went up to got Tua, you should get a quarterback that's better than Tua. And I personally think that Kyler is a better fantasy player and better dynasty asset than Tua is when healthy, when everything is going to be great, which is going to happen here in 6 weeks. Once the season ends and nobody's scoring points, Kyler Murray is going to be above Tua Tagovailoa as we look forward to 2024. So this trade to me is just as perfect as it was to go get Tua.
All right. Well, on that note, it is 3:01 and
Here's a dog.
Here's a dog.
Yay.
And Addison was supposed to start a live stream 2 minutes ago. So this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse. Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes_. There's Ellie over there. This is Chewy. See you next time.